Welcome aboard to the Honda HR-V, which is kind of like a lifted Civic with way more space and all-wheel drive capabilities. But it doesn't stop there. You get full LED lighting, fully physical buttons and dials, safety systems including an optional blind spot monitor, a USB-C charging station in the center console, remote start, and because this is the EXL trim, you get these lovely heated and perforated leather seats and wireless CarPlay with Android Auto. Welcome aboard to the 2024 Honda HR-V EXL. Let's get started. Let's begin by taking a look at the front fascia. I like this simplistic grille with this hexagonal pattern inside of it with the Honda badge just above it. The odd grille shape gives the HR-V a bit of character to separate itself from the CR-V and the Civic. Of course, you get full LED headlights, daytime running lights, and turn signals. We also have this lower grille with these black wings on each end with integrated air curtains that are fully functional. I really like the 3/4 view though. This looks the best. The Nordic Forest Pearl looks amazing in the sun. The side view is pretty minimalist with few body lines. These 17-inch EXL wheels have this little flower pattern with a 5-spoke profile on top, and they have a good rubber size, meaning you're going to have a pretty smooth ride. The side profile is reminiscent of the Civic, especially the door handles, which are pulled straight off of the Civic. They're also keyless entry too. We also have door-mounted mirrors with integrated turn signals and an optional blind spot indicator. The fuel door also has a capless insert too, which is pretty neat. I really like these full LED taillights with LED amber turn signals. LED amber turn signals are the way to go on these newer vehicles. They look fantastic. The liftgate does look a little droopy, but the rear end does have a clean profile. As a matter of fact, the third brake light is well integrated into the spoiler, and we have this black lower bumper to break up the back end too. One thing I found a little interesting is how it has this silver effect on the very bottom to kind of sort of mimic exhausts, even though there's no exhaust holes, which is kind of weird because the exhaust is right beneath it. There's also a lack of rear bumper depth, which means that the liftgate could be hit from behind easily in the event of a fender bender or a minor accident. So overall, the exterior is incredibly minimalist. It looks pretty good. It takes a bit of cues from the Honda Civic, but it also has a bit of its own. But the star of the show is the HR-V's interior that is finished in this lovely gray with these heated and perforated seats that are relatively comfortable. But let's start over here with the steering wheel. I like how it's fully leather wrapped. It feels great in the hand. Got nice 9-3 grips right over here. I like your cruise controls. They're really easy to use. You have your lane keeping assist as well as radar guided cruise control standard across the board. Extremely easy to use. I like the gloss black elements. A lot of people aren't going to like how they attract fingerprints, but I think it breaks it up quite nicely. The steering wheel itself has a very clean and minimalist design, and I really like the direction that Honda is going with these. On the left side, I like your back and next buttons for your radio, your very easy to use volume controls, and these two buttons adjust your semi-digital gauge cluster. So this left half is an LCD panel, while this right part is just a simple analog dial or your speedometer. On the tachometer side of the gauge cluster, you can display all-wheel drive torque distribution, driver attention, navigation, which shows you your compass, phone, audio, speed and time, range and fuel, any possible warnings, gauge display settings, your gauge cluster brightness, since there's no dial in the dash unfortunately, no content, safety support also because there's no button in the dash, your maintenance, which basically shows you your oil life, and lastly, which seatbelts are buckled. The center of the gauge cluster shows your digital speed, speed limit signage, driving mode, odometer, gear, and fuel tank. Although, unfortunately, there's no temp gauge. The turn signal stocks feel great, the wiper stocks feel great, and we even have a rear wiper since this is technically a hatchback. I really like the design of these door panels. We have a nice soft touch material on the top here, although the bottom is just hard plastic. However, we do get a nice metal grab handle right here, plus your typical Honda window and mirror controls. Lock buttons are right here. The mirrors are really easy to adjust. We have one touch down and up for the front windows, however, not the back windows, unfortunately. But we do have this nice soft padded armrest, which is also in the gray color, meaning that it's not gonna get too hot in the summertime. If we open the door a little bit, you can see we have these slanted bottle pockets. You're not going to fit giant bottles in here, but you can fit a typical bottle of Dasani, which is honestly all you need. We also have this weird ripple pattern here. It's the regular cheap plastic, but it actually feels kind of smooth, which is really interesting. And of course, you have your door-mounted speaker. In my opinion, the hard plastic is actually fine because this is where your shoes are honestly going to be kicking that door open. Now, I am quite disappointed to see a plethora of blank switches, since as you just saw, the gauge cluster brightness and the safety buttons are both missing down here. You have to go into the gauge cluster to do those. But keep in mind, this is the top trim of the HRV, and we're still getting blanks. But it's still nice that you can turn your traction control off. Also, what is this meant to be used for? Like, what are you putting in this? I also really like these air vents with the honeycomb pattern in the HRV. Honda's going this direction with all their new models, but this one is a little bit different because it's got this horizontal slat, and you can close it like this, open it like this, and adjust it up and down like so. The honeycomb pattern also continues all the way down to the passenger side. It looks really nice. Even though this part is fake, it does break it up very nicely. And I really like how they took the gray and brought it into the dashboard a little bit to give it kind of like a floating effect, and it's the soft touch. Not only that, but you also get some kind of soft touch plastic on the top of the dashboard too. And of course, your hazard button lives right in the middle, and that feels great too. In the middle of this gray leather seat sits this beautiful 9-inch head unit with wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Sirius XM. But not only that, it's got a couple extra special features. Not only do we have fully physical buttons, a volume dial, and back and next buttons, but you can also see your trip computer on here too, and you can even have a clock face if you want. This is also semi-customizable. You can go up into settings here. You can change what kind of clock face you want. So if you want a digital one, you can go here. If you want an analog one, you can go here. And you can even connect a thumb drive into the USB port and make your own clock face. That's a feature that's been seen on a lot of older Hondas, but it's great to see it return here too. We of course have a Honda reference going on right here. I also like the shortcut buttons down here. If you want to quickly set up your phone with CarPlay, you can just do that right there. Adjusting the brightness is really easy, just like so. And overall, the head unit is incredibly easy to use. Now, as far as our backup camera goes, we actually have 3 different views, even though we don't get a 360-degree camera on the HRVs. We have this wide-angle view, we have less of a wide-angle view, and we have this nice top-down view, which is really nice if you're trying to back up right to a parking spot line or something in your garage. And if we press this little button right here, you can see we actually have semi-360-degree parking sensors. It's got everything you need, but nothing extraneous in my opinion. And down here is my favorite part about the HRV's interior. These fully physical climate controls with physical dials. These are incredibly easy to use while driving. You can turn them on and off easily like so. We also have 3 stages of heated seats. Your recirc button lives here. You can change your air direction with this button. You can also enable your heated mirrors and rear defroster at the same time. And of course, we have automatic climate control and your sync since we have dual zone. However, you do have to upgrade to this EXL trim to get the dual zone. Now down here lives your little tech station. We have a USB-A port for Apple CarPlay if you want to hook that up, or if you want to plug in a thumb drive to create your own custom wallpaper. And right where my key is, I love this key by the way, it's just so nice. We also have a wireless charger since this is the EXL trim. And over here are your easily accessible cup holders. I do wish that they were back here like they are in the Honda Civic, but we'll get to that in a bit. And I also wish they had 4 teeth as opposed to 2 teeth, but it actually holds my cup perfectly fine, and it doesn't block my climate controls given how tall this cup is. And then right in the middle here lives your shifter for your continuously variable transmission, or CVT. Yes, I know, I would love to see an 8-speed automatic, but the CVT is actually pretty nice for a Honda, and it drives a lot like an automatic compared to a lot of other CVTs. You don't have as much of a rubber banding effect with this one, and they're pretty reliable. Down here are your drive modes, and you want to listen for this one because we don't have your regular Honda drive modes. So of course you have normal and econ, right? But instead of sport mode, we actually get snow mode because Honda figures that you're going to be getting this HRV in a more wintry climate like we're in today. We also have hill descent control, which is awesome to see. The HRV is basically a Honda Civic for people that want to drive in more wintry climates. We also have your electromechanical parking brake, or as I like to call it, the finger brake. And we also have your brake hold right here too. But we're not done with the center console area just yet. Right beneath here, we actually have a secret pocket with USB-C ports
on each side, so you can have a little tiny charging station hiding right beneath there. And that is the perfect place for a lot of people to put their phone while they are driving. And then, of course, I really like how this gray leather works its way through the entire center console. It feels really nice, actually, but you can see that it actually moves around quite a bit. That's my only criticism about that, but it actually feels great. I also like the center armrest. I like how it's padded too, and we also have this nice little metal button. Push that, and we get a bunch of space in our center console. No USB-C ports in here, but that's perfectly fine since we get them right here anyway. Now, while you do have to upgrade to the EXL trim to get this, we do have power seats, and I love how they have arrows depicting which direction the seat goes. So the front part moves up and down, back part moves up and down, of course it moves back and forth, and the seat, of course, reclines. Would be nice to see lumbar support though. However, unfortunately, the passenger seat is manual with no height adjustment, but given that this is only around $30,000 and you get all the other great features inside, this isn't too bad of a drawback. We also have a glove box, although I wish it was lockable, and you can see it has just enough space for a user manual. You can put a couple papers in here, but you're not gonna be fitting a ton of things in here anyway. And up here you have your auto dimming mirror. We also have convenience lights up here, which are LED. We have your door lights here, and this is your control for your sunroof. And as you can see, it's not a fully panoramic sunroof, but it's really nice that we get one at this price point. And if we don't want to let all the cold air in, we can push it and close it again, and you can see it'll leave the cover fully open for us, or we can just close it again if we want. Our visors are also pretty decent too. We have halogen convenience lights. You can pull them over here, and they fully extend, which is also nice to see. The front seats are definitely a nice place to be. They're incredibly simple to use. I like all the physical buttons and dials that we have, as well as an extremely easy to use gauge cluster. But the back seat, while being extremely basic as you can see, offers ample legroom, with this seat being in my default driving position, and a decent amount of headroom too. But yes, as you can see, we don't have a door pocket on the driver's side, but we do have one on the passenger side, which is nice. It's got this nice little lining inside of it, although not the nicest I've seen. I do like the leather feel though. We also have a little cubby back here, although I do wish we had rear AC, and we have yet another blank. It is disappointing that we have so many blanks, given that this is the very top trim you can buy. Would be nice to see some USB Type-C ports back here for sure. But we still have a nice little armrest here, and we have a decent sized door pocket, although once again, I do wish we had one touch down and up for the back windows. Even though the front door panel has a nice soft touch material on the top, the back seat is just hard plastic. And we don't even get a center armrest, which is definitely disappointing to see on a $30,000 compact crossover. One part that's really nice about this is that we have these touch sensitive dome lights, which is definitely very interesting to see, given that these are actually nicer than the ones we get in the front of the HRV. But don't push on them too hard, because the headliner will move quite a bit. Now, one of the reasons you might want to get the HRV over the Civic is middle seat legroom. You can see that we have a little bit of a transmission tunnel since we're a little bit taller in this vehicle, and I have decent legroom back here, and I still have decent headroom, although it does feel like I'm sitting on a hump seat. I feel like my co-passengers would be perfectly fine back here on a short drive. However, the outerboard seats themselves are actually quite comfortable, and I feel like I could spend a decent time back here too. So even though the back seat is quite basic for the price point, we can pull these little levers and we can 60-40 split fold these seats to gain access to the liftgate area of the HRV, which can be easily opened by clicking a little button here and pulling it up. I do wish it was powered, but it gives you a little bit of a push assist because of the hydraulic pumps here. And once we're back here, you can see there's quite a bit more room than the Civic hatchback that this is based on, which is definitely one of the biggest reasons you'd want to get the HRV over the Civic. Over here we have a nice little convenience outlet too, and nice little LED lighting on each side. And if we pull this up right next to our carrying hooks here, you can see that we have no space saver spare wheel, but we do get a jack, and we have a fuel filler funnel, as well as tools to help you get the jack set up. I like how there's some nice little rooms in here too that you can put extra things to hide them away. But we're not done just yet. We have nice little tethering hooks here, and we can easily fold the seats by putting these levers down, and we can effectively turn the HRV into a bit of a van, which is definitely a lot roomier than a Civic hatchback. Definitely nice if you want to carry a mountain bike, put some extra luggage back here, whatever. And I also like these little doors, which means we're gonna have a lot more flat of a load floor than a Civic hatchback will, and that part makes this worth it for a lot of people. Now, of course, the outboard rear seats have tether points for car seats, and of course we have a center buckle for your middle seat too, right? Well, we actually have a tethering point on the ceiling for the middle seat. How crazy is that? But now is time to take a look at the driving impressions of the Honda HR-V. So how is it like to drive? Well, if you've ever driven the newest Honda Civic and you love the way it drives, you're gonna love the way this HR-V drives too, because it drives almost the same. The steering actually has quite a bit of a good feel to it. It's light enough that you can do low speed maneuvers like this, but once you get on the accelerator and you get up to speed, the steering starts to tighten up a little bit, which is awesome. So you get a lot of steering feel here, and I love that you get that in a compact crossover, especially since we have more of a view vantage point than the Honda Civic. Speaking of which, visibility is also pretty good too. We have great visibility out our rear view mirror, as well as our back windows. The climate controls are pretty easy to access, although you do have to look a bit away and down to use them. However, since they're physical buttons and dials, they are pretty easy to use without even looking at them, which is awesome. You can just feel around for these incredibly nice dials and you're all set. Now, the CVT. Let's talk about how the CVT drives, because this is a major controversy of newer Japanese vehicles. The CVT is actually pretty good. At low speeds, it drives indistinguishably from an automatic because it upshifts at the right times, but once you start getting on the accelerator, start getting to 60 miles an hour, you will start to see it rubber banding a little bit, meaning that it's going to hold right about 5,000 RPM, then once you start getting up to speed, it's going to get to about 4,500 RPM, and then once you're finally at the speed limit where you want to be, it'll finally drop back down. So that part might be a little annoying for some, but I think for most people, it's not going to be too noticeable. This is definitely slow. It's a 158 horsepower naturally aspirated engine. So it's Honda's basic K20. You can't get a higher engine on the HR-V. If you want the 1.5 turbo, you do have to go to the CR-V. That's my only criticism. I do wish the EXL came with the better engine, but you're saving a little bit more money by going with this engine. It's still pretty fuel efficient and it's going to be really reliable. So if you don't mind it being a little bit slow when getting on the highway, it's definitely the way to go. Not for car people, but for basic commuter car type of stuff. Now, even though a lot of people don't like the iPad style dash, I like how it's right in my peripheral vision when I'm driving, so I can see what's going on here, and I can easily control what's on the head unit just by using the back and next buttons. So this is incredibly appreciated. Now, yes, I know we don't get a bottom mounted pedal, but the top mounted pedal actually feels pretty good. It has a good throttle curve, and the brake feel is pretty good too. It's not terribly difficult to stop, nor is it too sensitive. It's just right in the middle, or as I like to call it, the Goldilocks brake. So why would you want to get the Honda HR-V over a Honda Civic or CR-V? Mainly because you have a better driving view and it has all-wheel drive, whilst on an equivalent CR-V, you're just getting a front-wheel drive LX, which doesn't have any interior features. It doesn't have the nice leather. It doesn't have the heated seats. It doesn't have wireless CarPlay. Of course, for an extra few grand, you can get the CR-V with those features and a better engine, but this might be the perfect sweet spot for a lot of people. Plus, this drives almost indistinguishably from a Honda Civic while giving it some more winter-friendly features. So with that in mind, if you live in a wintry climate, I highly recommend the Honda HR-V. It even has more space than a Honda Civic too, which is just awesome if you're carrying a lot of stuff, if you're going mountain biking, whatever you want. It's a great vehicle that can basically do it all for the average person. And with that, if you're looking for an average budget compact SUV, I do recommend the HR-V. And with that in mind, thank you so much for watching my review on it. I hope you check out my other Honda reviews, and I will see you guys in the next one. And as always, make sure to drive safe.